Welcome to Educational World. In today's video lesson, we'll be looking at the topic motion. By the end of this topic, you should be able to define and explain the types of motion, state the causes and effects of motion, explain friction, and explain the types of friction, coefficient of friction, advantages, disadvantages, and methods of reducing friction. If you've not subscribed to this channel, I would like you to subscribe. Click the bell icon for notification and comment. What is motion? Motion is defined as the change in the position of a body with respect to time. Types of motion. We have different types of motion. The first one we are looking at here is random motion. Random motion is a zigzag or irregular type of motion of a body without any given or particular direction. For example, the motion of gas molecules. We have oscillatory or vibratory motion. This is a to and fro motion of a body reversing its direction and coming back to its original position. We have translational motion or rectilinear motion. This is the motion of a body in a straight line. Rotational motion. Rotational motion is a type of motion whereby a body turns about a given axis. Rotational motion is different from circular motion or revolution in the sense that revolution or circular motion, the body just follows a circular path without rotating, whereas in rotation, the body turns about a given axis. So that's the difference. Relative motion. Relative motion is the comparison between the speeds or velocities of two moving objects with respect to their direction. Relative motion can also be known as relative velocity. When two objects are moving in the same direction, the relative motion between them is the difference in their velocities. But when they are moving in opposite direction, the relative motion between them is the sum of their respective velocities. Causes of motion. The main cause of motion and the only cause of motion is force. So what is force? Force is that agent that changes or tends to change a body's state of rest or its state of uniform motion in a straight line. Types of forces. We have two main class and type of force. We have the contact force and the force field. Contact forces are those forces that require contact with the body to which it is applied. We have push, we have pull, we have tension, we have friction, and compression. These are examples of contact forces. Force fields. These are those forces that don't require contact with a body to which it is applied. For example, we have the electric field, we have the magnetic field, and we have the gravitational field. These are known as examples of force fields. What is friction? Friction is simply a force which opposes the motion between two surfaces that are in contact with each other. You can consider a body that is moving in a particular direction towards the right. Frictional force acts in the opposite direction to oppose that motion. So if force is the cause of motion, friction is the reason why bodies don't move. Types of friction. We have two main types of friction. We have the static or limiting friction and the dynamic or kinetic friction. Static or limiting friction is the maximum force that must be overcome before a body can just start to move over another. Dynamic or kinetic friction is minimum force that must be overcome in order to keep a body moving with uniform speed over another body. That means that in static friction, this is the initial friction that must be overcome before a body starts to move, and it is higher in value than the dynamic or kinetic friction. In dynamic or kinetic friction, it is just the force that is required to keep a body moving. When a body is moving and you remove the force, the body stops. But to sustain that motion, the friction that must be overcome is the dynamic friction. But before a body starts to move, the frictional force that must be overcome is the static friction, and it is higher in value. Friction and reaction. There is a relationship between the frictional force acting on the body and the weight of that body. Very interesting. The frictional force F acting on the body is directly proportional to the weight of that body W. Now I would like you to consider a body that is resting on a surface. The weight of that body is acting downwards, and the ground supports the weight of that object with an equal and opposite reaction R. So the weight of the body W is equal to the value of the reaction R, and the frictional force acts in opposition to the direction of the motion of that body. So if the object moves, now the frictional force acts in opposition to the motion of the body. So what is happening here now? Remember I said that the frictional force is directly proportional to the reaction, which is equal to the weight. Now, removing the constant of proportionality, we have a value which is called the coefficient of friction. So the coefficient of friction is simply the value that determines the amount of frictional force that we will encounter during the motion between two surfaces that are in contact with each other. And the value of the coefficient of friction ranges between 0 and 1. 0 means there is no coefficient of friction, so there is no frictional force. And when it is 1, it means that the frictional force is maximum. Advantages and disadvantages of friction. So what are the advantages of friction? It makes walking possible. It helps to support a ladder against a wall. Brakes of vehicles work due to friction. It enables us to sharpen our knives. Friction ensures that nails fix onto woodwork. Disadvantages of friction. Friction causes the wear and tear of machine parts or moving parts. It causes overheating of engines. It makes the efficiency of machines always less than 100%. So these are the disadvantages of friction. How can we reduce friction? We can reduce friction by the following methods: by lubrication, by streamlining of moving objects, and by the use of ball or roller bearings. So these are the ways by which we can reduce friction. If you are enjoying the content of this video, I would like you to like, subscribe and share. Thank you for watching.